What happens when you don't have indicators on your charts versus what happens when you do? We're about to find out because I had a little bit of a Friday afternoon surprise here when here on Friday, April 12th, 4 p.m., market just closed. I opened up my charts because I wanted to kind of get ahead for what might be going on next week with, the recent inflation data, earnings, and more. And my TradeStation did an update and it wiped out my favorite indicator from every single chart in this desktop. Now, normally that might make a person scream, and there might even be a way I could recover the charts that originally had it, but instead I decided to turn these lemons into some lemonade for you all by showing you the value of the RSI Power Zones indicator, whether it's at the basic level that I teach in my ebooks and the 4 Zones RSI system, or that next level that I teach in the advanced RSI Power Zone system. So again, since the universe has decided that I need to repopulate all of these charts with an indicator, we're going to go through them first without them and then add the indicator in and see what value it adds. So here is the SPY ETF, and this is a monthly chart. Every candle is 1 month of action, so you can see the April bars right here. And it is showing a weak month, but it hasn't wiped out last month's low. That's about all I can gather from the recent candlesticks. On the balance, we are still in an uptrend from October of 2022, most recently off of the October 2023 low. Great. Price action's awesome, and price action is king. Now let's add in the RSI Power Zones. Now, bringing in the RSI Power Zones, you can see that this takes the relative strength index and then creates these 4 zones around it. So the space between the red lines, the green lines, the red lines, and the green lines make the 4 zones. All the settings and how to populate it to your charts are in my ebooks and courses and more. What I want to focus on is right now the additional information this gives me. So you can see that just like the market ran up, corrected, ran up again, the RSI Power Zones ran up, corrected, and ran up again. The way that momentum moves is derived from price action. So it's similar, but it's not going to be an exact replica because the calculations within this black line essentially smooth out a lot of the noise in price action. That's one of my favorite reasons to use the RSI Power Zones indicator, and it's one of the things I get deep into in the advanced applications. So this on the monthly chart gives me kind of the same information, but now let's look at it on the weekly chart. So just like on the other chart, my weekly chart has no more indicators. Sad, boo-hoo. So before I add it back in, let's talk about what's happening here. Well, the market has been coming down and exited this channel I had on the SPY. And right now, the upper bounds of this week closed at the lower bounds of the channel. This alone doesn't indicate that we're in a new downtrend, but it does set the stage that bears may be taking over for a bit more time than expected. So while this is the case, let's go look at what the indicator does. So now I've added the RSI Power Zones indicator to the weekly chart, and check this out. You can see that it approached this upper green zone. That's the bull resistance power zone and skimmed away from it. See, that's the kind of insights you would only have using the RSI Power Zones, not the regular standard RSI that Mr. Wells Wilder made in 1978. That's a beautiful indicator, but it was originally designed for sideways and ranging markets, not trending markets like the one we have here so far this year, guys. If you want to make the most of 2024 market conditions, you have to use indicators in a way that are designed for that data. And right now we have a trending market that, yes, is attempting to correct and taking a pause, but it's been a pretty serious uptrend for a while. Okay, now let's do the same thing on the daily. All right, so now here's my daily chart. Again, no more indicators. Platform did an update, wiped it out. Now we're going to add them back, but before I do, let's just look at the price action, right? Price action's king, and what is it telling us? Well, we have been essentially trading between 524.61, the high from March 28th, and all of this weakness has been contained by the range from March 15th, specifically the low at 508.12, again, specific to the SPY. This to me is the most important short-term level, okay, that I want to look at to keep an eye on if bears are going to fully take over or if there's going to be a chance for recovery. So Now let's add in the RSI power zones and see what additional insights it gives us. We will also go intraday with this, so just hang tight. Here we have it, the RSI power zones added in the daily chart of the SPY. They were helpful most recently at the formation of the March 28th high versus the March 21st high, a very classic momentum indicator pattern setup, but the way it occurred versus the power zones is what makes it special. So again, I talk about that in the 4 zones RSI coverage system and go to the next level in the advanced RSI power zone system. And after that setup, the daily chart momentum readings have been not really telling us anything new because it's just been super, super volatile as the market danced around this lower boundary line, finally broke below it, attempted a return on Thursday, but traded lower here on Friday. So this RSI power zone's choppiness and slowness is basically reinforcing the choppy action on the daily chart. But still, again, this low right here is still being held, so all is not lost yet. For bulls, I wouldn't just stay bullish the whole time this low holds, but it is one of the first indications to me if the market's going to truly, take a nosedive. I'm not saying it's going to, I'm just saying that to me is an important level to watch. Now let's go intraday. All right. So here we have the SPY 240-minute chart. So that's 4 hours for each bar. Again, no RSI power zones here. As somebody who uses that indicator on every single chart, this looks almost naked to me. But again, the software, it didn't update and delete the indicator. So it's a reminder to make sure I'm really focused in on price action first and then use the momentum indicator as a supplemental tool. Okay, price action is king, but momentum can help us get a heads up on the turns. So now I'm going to bring in some Gann analysis, and I'm going to look at the directional moves here on this action. Okay, so big picture, what I just did, which is bringing some concept called Gann drives, I talk about it in my Gann book, in my Gann trading pattern system and more, is I just looked at the directional moves since that March 28th high. And there's something interesting going on in terms of how much potential downside is left before there's a decent recovery. Not necessarily a new uptrend, guys, okay? We still have time that needs to unfold because the chart patterns are not super clear yet. But on this intraday chart, we can see that the most recent drive down was from the high at 519.48. It is still unfolding, may have room to run. But it's also coming into one of my favorite patterns to discover price support that I teach in the 4 zones RSI system. Absolutely love it. And you can see, those of you who have the 4 zones RSI, you can see plain as day that was super helpful here. So now, of course, we're going to put the cherry on top with the RSI power zones. So here we go. Okay, I brought in the RSI power zones indicator, and I'm going to squish it up a bit. I like to do this on the intraday charts so that I get perspective of where this is versus the daily chart I just examined, okay? And here's what I want to point out. On the 240-minute chart of the RSI power zones indicator, there has been very helpful insights back since February. Okay, so 6 weeks ago, February 23rd, roughly, that have helped stay on top of these highs that formed that were in what in the traditional RSI approach or RSI power zones approach we call no man's land. When you look at it with an advanced eye, you can see that there are more complex patterns that form that allow you to use the RSI power zones indicator even in these choppier conditions. So believe that the concept that I'm looking at here is in the first session modules of Advanced RSI Power Zones. And what I'll do is as soon as I finish this video, I'll go ahead and snap this chart, put it in the Advanced RSI Power Zones portal with a reference to which lesson I'm talking about and some more notes. Bringing us to that March 28th high and then coming down from it, the Advanced RSI Power Zones right now are displaying that similar characteristic but to the downside, meaning there's room. Okay, it's not guaranteed, but there's room for a short-term low to come in price here and for there to be a recovery higher. I think it's likely to be limited back to about 515, maybe 519.50. That whole range is fair game when you're looking at the 240-minute chart, but as you go to lower time frame charts, you would get more insights. So we're going to do that now. Okay, I'm going to do something I hardly ever do. Is I'm going to take this 240-minute chart and go a time frame lower with the RSI power zones on it. So let's go to a 60-minute. 60-minute on the SPY. This is not something I ever do. I usually spend a lot of time on the 60-minute chart of the E-mini S&P, which moves very similarly. But what I want to show you here is there's even more precision we can get to how we may expect any sort of recovery to unfold. I'm going to take a moment and do that using some forecasting techniques. All right, so I do not have a crystal ball, do not blindly trade this, but let me show you. This intersection here, April 15th, 5/17/29, specifically 2 p.m. on April 15th on the 60-minute chart, that could be the magnet pulling price action up and to the right. Again, that I go deeper into that in the loss forecasting trading system. So those of you who are newer here, you might be wondering, what are all these systems she's talking about? Where is all this information? Well, you can go to my website, hemareddy.com, and check the courses page for any of these courses I'm talking about. The way I teach pulling from price action, momentum, and forecasting, I have separated out into courses of varying levels of diving into the concept. And I do that because it makes it easier for you to apply and understand. Learn a few tools, apply them. Learn a few more tools, apply them. That's how you master. You can't just go in and get 24 plus years of my experience and analysis expertise and expect to master it overnight. So there you have it. Here's my take on the SPY right now. I now have the fun job of adding the RSI Power Zones indicator. I'm pretty sure back to every other chart in this work space here. Oh yeah, that's going to be fun. But it's been a little bit of an interesting exercise to look at the price action plane and then add back the RSI. All right, keep it moving with your studying, application, practice. Good luck with everyone dealing with tax day, April 15th, and I'll catch you soon.